this weekend?
I'm putting up a retaining wall.
Do it yourself?
No, I'm going to get some broken.
Oh, come on, mate. Do it yourself.
She's a pretty big job.
Oh, you'll be right.
You reckon?
We can knock it over in half a day.
Yeah.
Get a couple of mates around.
Hey, Jonesy!
Huh?
Give us a hammer for job Saturday.
Mate, you're dreaming.
Aussies.
Oh, no surprises there.
DIY. It's in our DNA.
From your town, village, or tribe, connecting viewers around the world with news from the islands of the Pacific. Moana News with Ginny Hansel.
Greetings and welcome to Moana News. An asylum seeker at the Manus Island Detention Centre has been killed and another is in a critical condition. 13 others have been treated for serious injuries at the Lorengau General Hospital. It is understood that the deceased is an Iranian. Information received from sources at the centre suggested that PNG police may have been responsible for the death. There are unconfirmed reports from the camp alleging that the asylum seeker was assaulted by local police after they were verbally insulted in Tok Pisin. Deputy Police Commissioner Simon Kabua confirmed the death but could not elaborate further, saying there are speculations that police on the ground in Manus may have used excessive force. Australia and Papua New Guinea have both announced investigations, and correspondents in PNG say most of the injured had injuries consistent with beatings, with witnesses accusing local police, but the police are blaming the camp security firm G4S. Amnesty International's Pacific researcher Kate Schuetz says she understands the asylum seekers raised a number of questions with centre management last week, including the length of time it has taken to process claims and questions about their freedom. Ms. Schuetz says the response they got in a briefing on Sunday was that they will not get to Australia, that they could be stuck there for years in detention, and that they will eventually be resettled in PNG. She says there were some minor skirmishes following the announcement, and it is not clear how things got out of hand. She says tension have been escalating in the camp for so long that she's not surprised things got out of control. The Refugee Council of Australia says the incident was a tragedy waiting to happen. Both Amnesty International and the Refugee Council say they would like to see an organisation like the Australian Human Rights Commission to investigate the incident. And in further news concerning asylum seekers in Australia, the Guardian Australia website says personal details of a third of all asylum seekers held in Australia have been inadvertently released by the Department of Immigration and Border Protection on its website. The Guardian says the release of the details of almost 10,000 adults and children is one of the most serious privacy breaches in Australia's history. The database contains the full names, nationalities, location, arrival date, and boat arrival information. A refugee lawyer, David Mann, has told local media that the breach can potentially see thousands of asylum seekers in Australia who were previously ineligible for refugee status have their claims validated. He says the law is crystal clear that identification of a person seeking protection can result in them being granted protection on that basis itself. The Australian government has launched an investigation. The Office of the Speaker of Parliament has confirmed it has received a motion of no confidence against Prime Minister Kakis's, which was lodged yesterday. It's further confirmed that the motion is signed by 27 members of Parliament, and the opposition claims their numbers include 3 state ministers. The opposition bloc claims one of the major reasons behind the motion of no trust in Prime Minister MoanaNEWS is the Vanuatu National Provident Fund issue, which the opposition deems to be not in the national interest of Vanuatu, but rather benefits foreign companies. Other major concerns are the health status in Vanuatu and the ongoing recruitment of foreigners to fill local posts within the Vanuatu government. The motion calls on the Speaker of Parliament to convene a parliamentary meeting to debate the motion of no trust against the leadership of Prime Minister MoanaNEWS. And coming up after the break, new bauxite fields are found in Fiji, and the questions are asked about how serious the dengue fever outbreak in Fiji really is. Stay with us, we'll be right back on Moana News.
To meet sorrow and happiness as one family before God, I now pronounce you
Phyllis! Oh, yes! You made it! Hey, check out the missus!
Moana News with Ginny Hansel.
Welcome back. Another bauxite area has been identified in the province of Makuata, and talks have started with landowners. If successful, Aurum Exploration Fiji plans to begin work at the new sites this year. Company director Sang Lei said it would cost them about $10 million to build the site at Drageti. He confirmed the landowners were consulted together with the Mineral Resources Department, and says they have started talking with landowners and are continuing with discussions, making sure they fully understand and know what bauxite mining is about. Mr. Lei says they want the landowners to have a lot of time to think about their decisions and to come to an agreement. So far, they are happy with discussions and glad that the landowners are agreeing to talk with them. He says the landowners had also visited the mine site at Nawai Levu in Bua. Questions have been raised about whether Fiji health authorities are providing enough information on a dengue fever outbreak in Fiji. Claims of an epidemic have been growing on social media. However, it's Fiji's Ministry of Health is yet to make an official statement. Local reporter in Fiji, Samisoni Pareti, visited Lautoka Hospital after seeing posts on social media of a high number of patients presenting with dengue-like symptoms and overwhelming medical staff. Pareti says what he saw that night was a very pitiful sight. The outstation emergency area was being taken up by patients seeking medical treatment, and most of them were saying they feared they may be suffering from dengue fever. He says Fiji media cannot report on the issue unless the Ministry of Health makes an official statement. The ministry has come out to say there is a dengue outbreak, and there are advertisements to warn people in Fiji through the radio and television. He says the situation and how bad it is a story that is yet to be told. Secretariat of the Pacific Community Public Health Division Director, Dr. Ryan Soares, says Fiji officials have been communicating about the number of suspected cases, and they are talking about over 4,500 suspected cases since the beginning of December 2013. Dr. Soares says recent weather conditions in the region have also proved a fertile breeding ground for the dengue virus. And in further news coming out of Fiji about dengue fever, reports from Fiji say Nandi Hospital is under huge pressure following a dengue fever outbreak. Reports say a doctor at the hospital, who does not want to be named, says every bed is taken and people are having to line up for hours outside accident and emergency to be seen by a medical staff. The doctor says some staff members have also suffered from dengue fever, which has put extra pressure on the hospital. And in Samoa, problems from Sanganga College started in the aftermath of the 2009 tsunami, when coastal schools and students were identified as being at risk. Following government's policy to relocate all schools inland for safety purposes, the Ministry of Education, Sports and Culture ruled the school should be moved, but unfortunately, there have been issues with the new piece of land, and there is nowhere for the students to start their classes in 2014. As a result of claims that teachers were drinking and hosting parties at the Tuana'i site, the family that owned the land withdrew it from the school use and asked the school to make a payment if they want to use the land again. Prime Minister Tuilaepa stepped in and gave the MP for the district, Moangutu Tangata Peter Ahim, 2 weeks to sort out their problems. Tuilaepa says that if they can't solve their issues, then the school would be closed down and the students allocated to other schools for their education. Samoa Ministry of Health Chief Executive Officer Palanitina Tupui Matangi Toelupe says there will not be any prosecution of shops and supermarkets that get caught selling out-of-date food. Toelupe says she is not aware of any children or anyone getting sick from out-of-date food, and punishment for shops caught selling expired products to help the public is first and foremost public notification, which is not good for business. She advised the public to use local foods and learn to read labels of food products to check ingredients and expiry dates and check the food packaging. This is a soft response despite warnings last month that nearly a third of all big shops and supermarkets are selling out-of-date baby foods, putting babies at risk of contracting serious illnesses and even death. The lack of prosecution follows repeated warnings to the outlets at fault regarding the sale of expired food products. Coming up after the break, confusion in American Samoa over the status of the Telecommunication Authority's CEO, and New Zealand and Australia are criticized for embracing the new Fijian regime. Stay with us, we'll be right back on Moana News.
Mate, I'm so sorry. I thought there was time.
He's just pulled out. I don't have time to stop.
Well, come on, mate. It was a simple mistake.
I know if I was going a bit slower.
Please. I've got my boy in the back.
I'm going too fast. I'm sorry.
Moana News with Ginny Hansel.
Chairman of the American Samoa Telecommunications Authority Board, Roy J.D. Hall Jr., says Moefa'awo William Emsley is still the authority's CEO and he has not been terminated. Hall says that there was no written notification for the meeting on Friday, meaning the vote is not official according to board bylaws, and therefore any vote made is not valid. Two board members say that it was during a special meeting held last Friday at the governor's office conference room that a motion to terminate the CEO was carried with a vote of 4 yeas and 3 nays. The chairman of the board says his statement for the press is that CEO Bill Emsley was the CEO on Friday and is still the CEO now. Any special meeting for board action under the bylaws requires that a 4-day written notice be provided to every board member for a special meeting, and an agenda must be prepared and attached to the notice. A Fiji politician from the United Front for a Democratic Fiji, Mick Beddoes, says it is sad at such a critical juncture that New Zealand and Australia have decided to embrace the Fiji regime. He is commenting on a visit by the Pacific Islands Foreign Ministerial Contact Group and the meeting between Australia's foreign minister and the leader of the Fiji regime. That was the first top-level meeting since 2008 and has been described as warm and fruitful. Mr. Beddoes says it would be better for the countries to have improved relations with Fiji when an elected government is in place. He says that it seems they have taken further steps than one would have anticipated, and that's a great disappointment, especially when there are still many things to be put in place before we can have anything close to resembling free and fair elections. Fiji's International Dateline Hotel will be temporarily closed down on the 28th of February to enable major renovations work of the hotel by its new owner, the Tānoa Hotel Group of Fiji. A Tānoa Hotel Group delegation was in Tonga last week on the final stage of the negotiations for the Tānoa Group to take over the hotel. According to a reliable source, it is understood that an agreement had been reached, but there were still a few legal papers to be signed off. The Tānoa Hotel Group has hotel properties throughout the Pacific Islands, with 6 hotels in Fiji, 3 hotels in New Zealand, 1 hotel each in Samoa and Vanuatu. And a group petitioning against the Te Matovai water project in the Cook Islands say when it gets 1,000 signatures, it will apply for a High Court injunction to postpone the project from going ahead. The initiative, which will upgrade the water network in Rarotonga, is a partnership between the Cook Islands, China and New Zealand. The organizer of the petition, James Thompson, says it already has 500 signatures. Mr. Thompson says they are concerned that the original 60 million New Zealand dollar price tag has skyrocketed to almost $73 million. Thompson says they want more evidence from the government that the current pipes are not up to standard before the project goes ahead, and an assurance that the new system will be drought-proof. He says they are looking to put in a High Court injunction not to stop it, but to provide a good, foolproof water system. The group believes that systems can be built for $50 million cheaper. And coming up after the break, Tongan policemen charged with manslaughter go to trial next month, and the World Bank has announced it will provide funds to repair damage in Ha'apai after Cyclone Ian. Stay with us, we'll be right back on Moana News.
You can do anything in a Royal Wolf, from a pop-up shop to storing your gear, from a good night's sleep at the mine to chilling at the gig with a beer. From housing your collection to a portable office that's cool. From sipping on a latte to a home for all your tools. Our amazing space solutions stand up to any test. Hire or buy, whatever suits you best. You can do anything in a Royal Wolf. We make these ideas real. Call 0800 266 824 and we'll do you a deal.
Moana News with Ginny Hansen.
Welcome back. The 6 men charged with the manslaughter of New Zealand policeman Kali Fungavaka, who died in police custody in Nuku'alofa in August 2012, will be tried from next month. Police Inspector Kelepi Halaufia and Constable Fatai Faletau, Saalesi Maile, Te Vita Vakalahi and Manutu Vali will be tried together from March the 31st in the Nuku'alofa Supreme Court. A civilian, Se Misi Kalisitiane Manu, will be tried later in April in a separate trial. And in Tonga, the World Bank has announced that it will fund repairs to damaged port, airport and roads in Ha'apai. The World Bank stated that the funding is part of the World Bank's provisions under its Transport Sector Consolidation Project, which is supported by the Government of Australia. Director for the Pacific Islands, Franz Dresgross, says that to date, the bank has confirmed it will invest $1 million in the transport sector, which can be allocated quickly under its transport project, alongside the risk insurance payout of $1.27 million announced on January 23rd, that is supporting immediate relief efforts. Cyclone Ian has caused devastating losses to thousands of people and will require long-term efforts to rebuild safer and stronger. The World Bank is currently assessing how best it may contribute to recovery in Ha'apai in accordance with the wishes of the Tongan government. Sue Langford is Australia's new High Commissioner to Samoa. She replaces outgoing Dr. Stephen Henningham. Ms. Langford's appointment was announced by Australia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Julie Bishop, last week. Ms. Bishop says Australia and Samoa share a close bilateral relationship through our aid, trade and security cooperation, and we have worked closely together on recovery and reconstruction since the devastating Cyclone Evan in December 2012, and will continue to do so. Bishop says Australia's development assistance in Samoa is focused on health, education, economic governance, public sector reforms, and strengthening civil society. An increasing number of Australians are visiting Samoa each year as tourists, and the number of Samoans traveling to Australia is also steadily increasing. More than 60,000 Australian citizens or residents identify themselves as having Samoan ancestry. And the man from Lauli'i arrived in Samoa yesterday ahead of his biggest fight ever to seek a blessing from those that support him. Boxer Alex Leapai is scheduled to meet current world heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko in Germany on the 26th of April 2014. Leapai says that coming back to his homeland and getting blessings from the Samoan people is something he always tries to do before his fights. He says he is a strong believer in the Samoan saying that so se whaiva lava e masii ai tapua ai e manuia, which in English means any mission that is attempted and well supported by the people will succeed. The popular boxer says he can't wait to go back to Australia to train and prepare for the fight. Alex says he will cast it all on the Lord. Nothing is impossible when we trust in God. And that is your Pacific Bulletin for today, for 21st of February. Join us again on Monday at 11:30 a.m. for another update of your Pacific news. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Jenny Hansel for Moana News.